My name is Julia Steinberger. I'm a professor in ecological economics at the University of Lausanne, and I'm recording this video, hopefully of interest, because I've been leading the Living Well Within Limits project, first at the University of Leeds, then when I moved to Lausanne, and that project was quite simple in its conception. We wanted to understand what were the amount of resources, let's say energy, that would allow people to live well. And we also wanted to understand what were the constraints, either technological or social, political, economic, on people living well or not. So we wanted to have both a quantitative aspect to the project in terms of like estimations, modeling. We also wanted to have qualitative aspects of the project in terms of sort of understanding how people live and understand well-being in their communities, and how current systems, infrastructures, economic structures influence the resource use and connections to well-being of different people, different populations. And we wanted the project to be very international, to have an international scope. So we were very lucky to have funding from the Leverhulme Trust. I always have to say this because no research other funder wanted to touch this project. And we were very lucky to get this funding from them, and that allowed us not to have a focus either on the UK or on Europe. It really allowed us to cover wherever we wanted. And one of the things that was very exciting is that we were able to have an international sort of global scope in terms of the data we looked at, in terms of the modeling we did. We were really able to sort of say, what does this look like in a really large diversity of contexts? We were also able to do field work and to, in particular, look at household consumption data in really diverse countries. So this was the PhD of Marta Baltrushevitz, and she looked at 4 countries in really very large detail. Zambia, Vietnam, Nepal, and the UK, so very diverse, trying to understand exactly which households were in which circumstances, in terms of their well-being, in terms of their vulnerability, and in terms of their energy use, and then what that looked like, why some households at very low level of consumption were still doing okay or even thriving, and what the factors were there. So that sort of says a bit about what we wanted the project to be doing. And in terms of the things we found, we looked at inequality a lot internationally and within these countries. We looked at political economy, systems of provision of different industries around energy, so transport and electricity in particular. And in the end, what we could boil down our findings to, which was really quite exciting, is that, first of all, it should be technically entirely possible to satisfy everybody's needs at a decent level without deprivation at very low energy use, so much lower than we have today, despite population growth, roughly half of what we have today, or even a bit below that. Technologically, this is okay. However, this model is really a how low can you go model. So we're talking about like high performance technology and infrastructures everywhere. We're talking about, which involves a huge amount of investment, by the way. And we're also talking about no levels of inequality left. We're just sort of saying like everybody has enough and nobody has any more than that. And that turns out to be quite low, but as soon as you put inequality into the mix, you change that. So one of the things we were also able to do is demonstrate that really, in order for well-being within planetary boundaries to happen, we need to get inequality down way below what it's been certainly in recent history. And the other thing we were able to identify is the facilitating factors, which would allow us to get there, and the obstacle factors. And the facilitating factors, honestly, it was much more simple than what I expected. It turns out public services are the linchpin. So public services are the most protective factor. So if everybody has access to public services, good infrastructure, electricity access, sanitation, healthcare, education, all of those things really allow people to live good lives at low resource use. So public services are key. And obviously they're being destroyed right now, which brings us to the main obstacles. The main obstacles are basically economic structures that favor large companies that are very much invested in continuing overconsumption, overproduction, and securing their profit motive at the expense of much more resource efficient and equitable ways that we could organize our economy. So the conclusion of the project is we probably need to have some kind of an economic revolution, as we really need to move in a very, very different direction from the one that we are now. And that would mean taking us much more towards economic democracy in terms of allowing people, not these companies, to make decisions in the economy. We've been living in an ideology that says that the market knows best, and the market is not an independent entity. The market is very much controlled and directed by these companies. That's one of the things we were really able to see and show. And so we need to take decision-making power back, and we need to trust ourselves and our fellow citizens that we will do things a lot differently and a lot better. And we can actually see this happen in proposals from citizen assemblies. When we put community management energy firms, they do things completely differently. So we actually see these examples, and so that's the direction that we're taking now in our next project, which is the REAL project, REAL Post-Growth Deal, which is funded by the European Union. And we're really trying to take this economic transformation idea forward.